Hello, and welcome to this episode of Make, Do, Tell with the Kansas City Public Library. Because this is the time of year for ghost stories, we thought we'd find some scary books to help put you in the mood. But be warned, all of these books are high on the creepy scale. Some are, of course, scary, some are bloody, some are just a bunch of head games. But hey, what can be scarier than not even trusting your own mind? And while these books are vastly different from each other, still there are some glaring similarities, namely that the dead sometimes do more than just haunt the living. And a trustworthy grown-up is nowhere to be found. First up, Coraline by Neil Gaiman. This is the story of a lonely girl whose parents are too busy and really like things tidy. Coraline seems brave to me right from the start, going off to meet the neighbors, exploring the grounds of what must have been a vast estate. Now the house is chopped up into separate apartments, but why are there no kids around? Why is everyone so old and creepy? She discovers a parallel universe that is dark and sinister. Her other mother is extremely needy. The tension builds quickly as Coraline's world begins to shrink violently, and ultimately it is up to her to save herself and find her parents, her real parents, before it's too late, and time is running out. This book gets a 10 on the creep scale, pushed to the top by the illustrations. I could hardly look at them, they are so creepy. Next up, Thejumbies by Tracy Baptiste. Thejumbies are the evil spirits haunting the ancient woods on the Caribbean island where this story takes place. Most people believe in them, some don't, thinking they were just creatures made up by adults to scare children. 11-year-old Corinne doesn't believe. She knows they're just stories, but still she's spooked to find herself lost in the woods, where she's awakened an ancient spirit. Of course, again, the grown-ups are useless and it falls to the children. One of my favorite things about this book is the small crew of friends Corinne has, and how they ultimately come to work together to fight the evil. Do they win? I give it a creep factor of 9 for the eyes in the woods and the creatures with backward feet and the women with hooves and some other reasons I don't want to give away. I'll just say this, I'm not going into the woods alone anytime soon, and you shouldn't either. The next book is Double Identity, written by Margaret Peterson Haddix. Imagine this, it's dark. You've been riding in the back seat for hours. You don't know where you are, but you're afraid to ask any questions because your mom can't stop crying. So your dad just drives and you just look out the window until finally you get there, a place you've never been, but you're going to stay here with your aunt, this woman you've never seen before, this woman you never even knew existed before, while your dad takes mom someplace she can get help. And just like that, the overprotective parents who until this very moment have never left you alone for practically your entire 12 going on 13-year-old life are gone. And it just gets worse. And even though you discover your aunt is one of the good adults, you realize quickly that you are not who you think you are not safe, and your aunt can't protect you. The creep factor is a 7, mostly because the first-person narrator keeps you right there in the dark, seeing how people in your new town look at you, how every question you get answered leads to 2 more questions that you can't get answered because you can't contact your parents. Skeleton Man by Joseph Bruchak. Here's another first-person narrator who has been abandoned by her parents. Molly holds out hope, truly believing they're going to come back, so she doesn't tell anyone. And while she sits there for 3 or more days, not contacting the authorities, a stranger makes his way in, claiming to be her uncle. The authorities believe him, of course. And of course, he isn't her uncle, and she is not safe. Has she been kidnapped? Why does he lock her in her room every night? What is he doing in the shed at the back of the garden? It's up to her to not only save herself, but also to find and save her parents. Sound familiar? This story is so creepy because the man pretending to be her uncle is not unlike the Skeleton Man, a human flesh-eating character from scary stories her father used to tell her. Stories that were told to him because, adults like to tell scary stories, and kids just love them. How about you? Are you a scary story kind of person? A Tale Dark and Grim by Adam Gidwitz. Taken from the original Grimm's fairy tales, those really dark and gory ones, Gidwitz sends Hansel and Gretel through the kingdom of Grimm, overcoming darkness, death, and dismemberment while looking for parents to take them in. Parents, that is, who are nice people, who won't cut off their heads. I guess in the real story of Hansel and Gretel, that's what happened. This is not only fast-paced, full-on scary with a lot of blood and gore, but this is one of those books where the author steps out of the story to talk directly to you, the reader. It helps remind you that it's only a story. It's only a story. And you won't be surprised to learn by now that of course there are no good adults around, and these kids have a heavy, heavy burden that ultimately includes attempting to slay a dragon. I give it a 10 on the creep factor for the sheer number of things gruesome and gory. Don't read this if you can't stand the sight of blood. Okay, the last book here, The Lost Boy, a graphic novel by Greg Ruth. This book is so scary I had to stop reading very early on. It was dark. It was raining, I was home alone, and I was going to be home alone. The illustrations were freaking me out for how real they are, especially what is probably the creepiest doll in children's literature ever. Seriously, if you want to scare somebody, just show them the picture on page 23, where I stopped reading that night. His name is Tom Button, and he talks. He isn't the lost boy, but he may or may not be able to help, even though he's a doll baby thing with a very creepy expression on his face. When I started again in the light of day, I read it in one go. Chances are you will too, and then you'll go back and read it again. It's that good. And I can't say enough about the incredible craftsmanship of this artist's work. It really puts the creep factor totally to the top. A fine place to end this book talk with another 10 on the creep scale. All right. I'm Clare Hollander, wishing you a spooky Halloween. Be sure to like us and subscribe below, and don't go into the woods alone.